so we had, again, 55 plus entries. I'm going to go through this really quickly. I'm going to have to think of maybe a different system for this in the future if I start getting more. Anyhow, so looking at this, the very first entry, there's a few kind of big issues with this. The first issue we have is right off the bat, the call to action, it does not stand out enough at all. The call to action should always be of a contrasting color that's kind of set apart from the other colors, but also complements well with the existing color theme, or color scheme rather. And then looking at everything else, all the type and such is too small, so it's kind of hard to read. So I would definitely improve those aspects of it. And we have a couple of other entries that are pretty good that will kind of illustrate what I'm talking about a little bit better. So those are the major issues that I would focus. Also, white space. There's a lack of white space. Everything's very condensed. It looks like this was designed for, a very small resolution, or like a phone or a tablet almost. All right. So thanks for the entry, though. All right. Looking at this one. Let's see here. Okay. The biggest issue here, I think, is issues with the alignment. For instance, we have, these two blips of text right here are right aligned to this portion right here. And then we have this portion that's centered, and then we have this width of the input, email address right here. It kind of extends out to this size, and then this send me my coupon is like another different angle. Everything is just kind of, there's not a lot of structure to it in terms of the layout itself. So that's probably my biggest concern with this one. Another concern here is the enter your email address is kind of very small and hidden almost. I would really make that quite a bit larger, just because that's something that people are expected to click into, or more ideally, the text is already there, but that's one of the main areas that you're going to be focusing aside from the call to action. Once they actually click it. So let me close that alert there. And so yeah, that's I would try to stick with more structure with this. Also, I'm not exactly sure what's happening here on the sides either. It's kind of hard to tell, like if it with such a small resolution like this. I almost want to be able to maximize it in a browser and kind of see what you were aiming for. But anyhow, that's thanks for that submission. All right, so let's see. Water is better with flow. Okay, so this as well has alignment issues. We have this over here. This text is the text itself is centered with water is better with flow, but it's also right aligned, and that throws everything off. There should be, if you're going to have the text that's centered like this, which is fine, you better have it centered within the parent container as well, not pushed over here to the right. Same thing with this. This is centered text, but it's pushed over to the left. There's no flow here, no pun intended. So really, if you're going to center the text elements, you should center them well within the parent container. Secondly, the what's your email, and the fact that there's no padding between the text itself and the container, that's a big no, just because whenever you have text that's inside of an input container, you definitely want to have more padding, or white space as it's called. The way you do that with CSS is just by adding padding like 10px or something, because otherwise it gets smashed up against the border and just does not look good, unfortunately. So those are the main issues I would focus on if I were you. Okay, next one. Okay, so the alignment with this one is definitely better than the previous two. So if you guys are still watching, this is better alignment. If this is centered, this is centered. The one big issue though is the call to action is way too small. So you have the email here, and I could see you put email address, but it's so hidden, I could barely even see it. So you definitely want to make that stick out more as placeholder text. And then the send me my coupon, that call to action, it's still way too small. I would try to place much more emphasis on this. It also kind of gets hidden because you're using the same blue as this water blue here. I do like the water itself. That's a good take on it. And then secondly, this also kind of gets hidden as well, just because the font size is pretty small, and it just seems it's kind of hard to focus on just because of all the different little water droplets. Yeah, just for me, it's kind of hard to see down there. I'd definitely increase the size of this and probably even get rid of this container as well. And probably along with it, increase the size of everything else. I think the size is kind of the biggest issue with this one here. Other than that, I do like it. Everything else is going good for it. All right, so looking here at Scully. All right, so a lot of issues with this. First of all, the whole emboss, the stroke, you know, it looks like there's a slight maybe inner shadow. Definitely get rid of that. It looks too old school. It looks like the late 90s design. Want to get away from that for sure. Once you fix that issue, it seems like there's not enough structure in terms of, or there's not enough, I would say this is called visual hierarchy. You have the call to action right here, and it seems almost like a secondary thought as opposed to, you know, this large filtration system and this text down here. What I would do ideally is move, you know, the water is better with flow up here prominently, make it much larger than it is, along with the receive a 15% off coupon underneath it, then the call to action, and then the picture and such, and this stuff down here would be underneath it, ideally. All right, but I think the biggest issue that's throwing off is graphically way too much use of effects here. We've gotten away from that in terms of design, so definitely want to stay away from that. Thanks for the entry, though. All right, Orion, let's see here. Okay, there's a contrast issue with this. The receive then the coupon by, you know, the blue part, that it conflicts way too much with this the water, you know, the ocean background of the beach. So that's definitely an issue right there. Now coming down here, the color, there's some contrast issues as well with this. You know, this gray background here for the input and enter your email, and also the kind of the aqua outline. Those colors kind of clash, and this is a little bit too hard to read. It's not enough contrast there. You didn't do too bad of a job though for the call to action button, because that's big and it does definitely stand out. But yeah, this portion right here, and then this tagline or the subheading right here, that's what I would focus on improving right here. So thanks for that entry. All right, digital art. Okay, looking at this, you know what, let me copy image URL. Make sure I'm viewing everything as big as they should be. Hopefully that wasn't an issue with the previous ones I was reviewing. So looking at this, I would say the biggest issue would be this text probably should be a bit bigger, and it should probably stand out more. And there's not a lot of contrast. You can still read it, but it still just doesn't really stick out like it should, or like I feel it should. Secondly, there's an unnecessary amount of white space right here, especially when you have this text right here all pushed up this close. So there's an inconsistency in terms of the white space distribution, I guess you could call it. They receive a 15% off coupon. That doesn't stick out enough. And then the call to action button copy, you know, you don't want to make these the same colors, both white, because you want a good distinction between, you know, where you click and then, you know, where you enter the data and then when you actually click, because they kind of just both get lost in a sense. So you always want your call to action button, whatever they're clicking, to stick out the most. All right, so thanks for that entry. Let's just go down here. Okay, so let's see here. Okay. So this is, like he's mentioned, scaled down by 50%. So you get to here, this isn't bad. This isn't bad. This isn't bad, too bad either. This portion is too small though, definitely. Like how you're trying to do something unique with that. I'd probably stay away from that. In this day and age, you really don't see anything, you know, this unique trying to, you know, combine these two. But I think the biggest issue is it doesn't stay. There's not enough contrast with this button copy. So you have the background, which has these blues, and this is blue as well, and so it gets hidden. So I would definitely work on remedying that issue. That's the biggest issue with this one. Let's see here. And then other than that, I probably would have gotten rid of any, I would have gotten rid of the bottom of this glass here. And then you would make this black or like a dark gray or something. But yeah, good entry aside from that. All right, John H. Okay, this is, let me hit copy, not copy image URL. Okay. Definitely a very cool sort of image right here. Definitely, I like the layout of this, but I think there definitely is an issue with this. When you get to the width, it's a little bit hard to read, especially if I zoom out. You can see the width gets kind of hidden. So making this maybe a darker blue or something like this, or a real dark blue, almost black, would be more ideal, I think. And then coming down here, I just think if this were full size, and this is how it was really going to play out, and yet if you had to scroll down this much though, just to get to this portion here, that wouldn't be ideal. Try to move things up just a little bit and maybe take away from the white space just a tad bit. And usually with new designers, which I'm not saying you're new, at least most of the entries I receive, this is an opposite issue. A lot of people cram everything together. This is spaced out so far, I think maybe to the opposite direction. But other than that, everything else, I like it a lot. You know, the design-wise, layout, all that. One of the better entries, so thanks for that. Okay. Okay, so this one, there's an issue. Can barely see the enter your email, so you definitely want contrast there so people can see it. This sticks out better this time, so that's definitely better. This text down here, not enough contrast. You would definitely want to bring that out. And I would probably move these down, this one down a little bit, and then this one closer up. Just because everything's too evenly spaced out here, and it just kind of feels, I don't know, there's just something definitely wrong with it. I think when it comes to like a headline and a subheadline, try to get them closer together than this, instead of this equal distribution between these elements right here. All right, thanks for that though. All right, Laura, let's see here. 2 versions. I feel like I know what the trimming. Okay, so looking at this one, let me look at these both here real quick. Yeah, definitely would not like this one because this is definitely doesn't look like dripping water. So, especially with this, because it just looks a little bit strange. Having said that, or ignoring that, cool little logo. Let's see here. Let me hit copy image URL. So this particular font, it's kind of hard to read because there's not a lot of letter spacing, or the tracking is way too thin, I would say, or too close together. The send me my coupon button, you definitely want to add more padding. There's not enough padding from the left and the right, certainly. If you added it as much as you had up here, which is like 15, 20 pixels, you definitely want to have equal padding, at least on the right and left. Enter your email address here. Kind of hard to read again, just because of that font issue. Other than that, you know, the send my coupon CTA definitely stands out, so that's good. And so coming down to this version down here, right here, I like this better, definitely, the way you put this right here. All right, so you kept it simple, so thanks for that. They definitely had a lot of things going for it that was positive. Herlin, okay. So let me copy image URL here. All right, so flow, water's better flow, okay. Yeah, the only thing here, I like there's a lot of contrast, definitely, and I like the watermark background, so you did that well. I would move the email address and send me my coupon up above here, and then this information down below. I just swap these two, basically. Having said that, The color scheme's good. The call to action button, this turquoise teal sort of color, very good. It complements this color as well. And this is good as well, so I like it. It's very simple, but definitely effective. I think just if we swap these two, it would be better. And which is obviously a very minor detail. I'm coming down. All right, so okay, I definitely don't need a password, but ignoring that, looking at this, I see how this color, this green, almost starts to match this green down here. It gets in the same realm of the color spectrum. You kind of want to avoid that because it does begin to get lost a little bit. So somehow find a remedy for that by either changing this color down here or this color right here, this call to action. Looking at this, the rest of it, just assuming it should just be email address right here, probably the same width as the send me my coupon, and that would be more ideal, I guess. Let me see here. Yeah, and that's all this person added. So yeah, there's just those couple things I think would definitely improve it. I'm not a big fan at all of the font right here. I definitely would probably just leave that out. And also the copyright protected, yeah, you don't want that either, trust me. It just takes away from the design, and these are distracting elements basically, especially when it comes to a squeeze page. All right, coming down, leaf, all right. There's a lot of issues here in terms of contrast and complexity. So you have this complex background here, but because it's basically a photograph that hasn't been watermarked, kind of like the entry right here, and it's kind of left as it was. There's a lot of issues. We have these dark and light colors, and they're all throughout, and then we have all this text that's on top of it. Makes it very hard to read any of this. It makes it hard for the eye to follow, especially with, enter your email address here and the submit button. Way too much complexity going on here. You want simple, simple, simple. Which is a good thing, because as a designer, you don't want to have to focus on trying to do all these elaborate designs right here. It's not effective. It's just not effective in terms of maximizing the amount of email submits that you're going to get. All right, so I would focus on just returning to some simplicity and not feeling that you have to overdo things like this. Thanks for taking the time to do it, though. Now, this is kind of a cool part. This is definitely better design than what was going on right here, I would say, for the features. All right, thanks for that entry. Okay, so definitely not a fan. I'm not too big of a fan of this font. If you're going to use a font like this, like Water is Better with Flow, I would probably only make that font specific to this text right here, just because it's so unique. But if you start adding it to all the other, see, you used a good font for the send me my coupon or send my coupon, I would definitely maybe add it to this as well. Just because it's such a unique font, this hand script font, that it begins to clutter things essentially, just because of the type of font it is. Having said that, look at the send me my coupon. That doesn't stick out enough. Again, if you look at this color here, it starts to match this color up here, and it just doesn't stand out as much as it should. There's also a lack of white space between these elements. Everything kind of just flows together, so I would work on that. Thanks for the entry, though. Big issues here all around, unfortunately, because we could barely read this text right here, so it clashes too much with the background. So there's not enough contrast, makes it hard to read. The email here, I already mentioned this issue. We definitely need to scale down this text so there's more padding and white space. The send me my coupon, it's definitely not unique enough of a color to that it stands out well enough. It doesn't really complement this color up here. So there's a lot of different tools you can find for complementing color schemes online. You just do a Google search for that. So yeah, I would definitely work on that. And the alignment issue as well. There's no alignment here really. It's kind of just thrown together. When it comes to these type of landing pages, if you center things, you almost can't go wrong. But when you start doing things like this, yeah, it starts to throw off the whole design. Thanks for the entry though. All right, so big contrast issue here. You can't really read it. So you definitely want to invert this and, use like black perhaps, but not white, because this is almost white itself. This 15% off coupon with your email, right there, could barely even see that. So big contrast issues there. And the send me my coupon, I couldn't even read that. So definitely want to work on your coloring and contrast. And you really want people to be able to see things big time. And there's also an issue with priority. You have, this section right here, which was done well, but it's one of the least important sections. It's this right here, the email, getting the email is the goal, but it's kind of shoved up here to the right. So looking at this, it just seems like this is, there's no layout here, unfortunately. Let me go back up. So yeah, things just need to be organized a little bit better. Thanks for the entry. Okay, so looking at this. Okay, so yeah, it's nice that this is a unique sort of approach for the top. I would say though that it's too much. It takes away too much from this portion down here. Again, the primary goal, that these people want is the email address. When it's shoved over down here, unfortunately, it's just, it would need to be worked within this area, basically, in order for this to be most effective. Because if they were to test this versus another example where this has a lot more prominence, the one with more prominence, of course, will get more email addresses, which is what the goal is. Artistically up here, this is cool, but I just don't think it's going to be, it would perform well in terms of getting most emails when it's just kind of tucked over here to the side. Thanks for the submission, though. All right, Tash, let's see here. Okay, so again, issue with call to action. It doesn't stand out enough. It doesn't contrast enough with this bluish background right here, so it gets lost. It almost looks like a label, too, so people might mistake this as a label and not even click it. So usually, if you're going to have the button, the call to action button, it shouldn't be to the left. It should be, if anything, to the right or underneath it, so that people read from left to right. So they'll put here and then click here, or underneath from top down. Other than that, you want to have equal white space as well. You have this white space right here, and then you have this white space down here, and it's not even. So it kind of flows off, throws off the flow of the design, essentially. So you want consistency when it comes to the white space. Thanks for that submission. All right, looking down here, definitely a more modern design. I think, once again, the navigation kind of takes away from everything. I wish you just would have pushed this, either left it like right here, left the line to the text, or centered it. Let me hit copy image URL just so you can see this one in particular, full view. Yeah, so this is a pretty good design. It's simplistic enough, especially right here, enter your coupon code, even though it was supposed to be an email address, that this being the same color as this, this stands out on its own already. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a different color in this type of context. I am worried, though, that this might not be so obvious that it's an area where you put your code or your email, just because it's a simple line right here. Now, there would have to be like a blinking cursor effect so people really understand that. Other than that, design-wise, I definitely like it. So thanks for that submission. Moving on. All right, doesn't look like there was an area that was specified. Just want to read this real quickly. Okay, so I don't see anywhere for the person to enter their email, so that's a big issue, obviously. In terms of the background, that's fine. I think this text right here, probably a little bit, almost a little bit too big. There doesn't seem to be much of a what's called visual hierarchy with what you've done with the type, basically. So yeah, we definitely have visual hierarchy in terms of this right here, the heading or the headline. Then there's the receive a 15% coupon by entering your email. And then just down here with equal size and text is this information. And so the eye isn't really sure where to read or where to go. So it just seems like a lot of text, even though it's not, but your average person's lazy, they don't like reading. So I think the big issue there is just you need to have the input for the email. And also this would definitely be underneath any input or data that they would be putting in. Just because he says, this is where you say receive a 15% off coupon by entering your email, but then you have this stuff, and then you have supposedly down here, I would assume is where you're supposed to put your email. So that's an issue right there. And if this is supposed to be a part of this design right here, definitely feels disconnected, and it's way far off to the bottom. So I would definitely want to rework that if that's the intention. Thanks for the submission though. All right, water's better with flow. Receive, okay. Okay, so in terms of getting your content prioritization correct, you definitely did. Looking down here, it's not so obvious that this is a button just because it seems connected. I mean, it is connected with this. So I'd prefer to see maybe a different color here with this button and maybe separate it. When you try to work them in together, things can possibly get confusing when you break standards, basically. Having said that, everything else is pretty good in terms of the type and the color and contrast and simplicity, so thanks for that. All right, coming down here, water is better with flow. Okay, let's see here. Wow, a lot going on here. Definitely spent some time on this. Ideally, because they're trying to get the email, this has to go up top. You can have it again, I guess, at the bottom, but definitely want it at top since, that's what this is a squeeze page. What they're trying to do is get the email, as many email addresses as possible. So I would move that up here, place a lot of emphasis on it, and then that's when you can add all this. You can add your trust factors, such as these logos, the about section, these blips right here, and any other information. Generally, for a squeeze page, you leave out, though, things like navigations and other areas for them to leave, just because this is the primary focal point. Having said that, looking at this, enter your email text doesn't stand out enough, so it's hard to read. The send me my coupon, way too small. Definitely would work that up to at least the size of this as well. But thanks for taking the time for submitting that. And then look at this. Again, there's an issue with the font size. So you have water is better with flow. It just looks like a big wall of text, unfortunately. So you need to work on, maybe giving some space away from the receive a 15% off with the headline, maybe a little bit more space, white space. Put this text underneath it down here somewhere. And then you have your area where you're enter the email and this portion. Now, you always have to put in enter your email because some people, they're not very intelligent. They're not going to know it. They'll put their phone number or something like that. And then to send me my coupon, it's the same color as everything else. I would definitely make it a different color to make it really stick out. So thanks for that entry. Man, 28 minutes already. Oh my God. Okay. All right, so let's see here. Water is better with flow, receive a 50% off. Yeah, I would definitely want to work this up inside of here because it seems so disconnected. This right here is supposed to be a part of this. This tells them why they should enter their email, but now it's in a completely different container. So there's an issue with that. I like the design though. Design-wise, it's cool. But I think just throwing it down here is a mistake. But yeah, other than that, good design. It's just kind of like a minor issue though. All right, looking at this. Okay. Copy image URL. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like the one issue here is, again, as with the previous entry, they receive a 15% off coupon miner in your email, kind of leave it hanging right here. Then we have the separate container, which then at the very bottom asks for the email. It's kind of, this is pushed down way too far. I would push this up for sure. And that way, the enter your email here and get coupon, that's not lost from this portion right here. Otherwise, good design. Thanks for the entry. All right, so looking at this one, call to action right here, it doesn't stick out enough. It doesn't contrast enough with the background, unfortunately. So, and again, we have the padding issues right here. You definitely want to have more padding on your top and bottom of the button, at least to be consistent with the right and the left. Because if they touch like this, it just throws off the design consistency of it. And so I definitely improved the color and the contrast. To enter your email address, I would try to thicken up as well in terms of padding, and really try to give people room to breathe, or you give your text room to breathe when it comes to containing them in elements like this. I'm not a big fan of having the white text up here and then the black text right here. There's an issue of inconsistency, I guess, when you've changed up the type a lot, because this goes from real thick and bold to bold still right here in white to black and then thin. There's an issue with the typography. Try to keep things more simple because you're changing up a lot of elements right here. Having said that, let's see here. I would also work on how you're presenting this information right here, because it just kind of looks like it's a slap there. I would get rid of containing these and these containers as well. And that's kind of an more old school approach, using containers on all your different elements. I would just make this text, dark gray or black or something, and just break away from the containers so it's not so blocky. Thanks for the submission, though. All right. So again, definitely there's an issue here. It's not, there's no area to specify the email address. And also the receive it 15% off text, there's no call to action right next to it. Unfortunately, you have all this wall of text here. So that's an issue. I definitely would have this right here. I think you left out, water is better flow. It's right up there at the top. It almost looks like it's a part of the logo though. So yeah, I would definitely move this down, make it much smaller font size, move this up with a good call to action button, and the enter your email address up here. Thanks for the submission. Okay. Definitely an issue with this, way too small and hidden. So I would take this, move it down, take the receive a 15% off coupon by entering your email, make that much larger, centered, and take this as well and definitely make that much, much bigger so that people can see it. So that's the biggest issue with that. All right, let's see here. Thanks for this submission, though. All right, so water is better with flow. Right here. Issue right here with this is it doesn't stand out enough, doesn't contrast enough. You don't want to use the same color as the background unless it really contrasts with it. And this is kind of like just slapped at the bottom is a lot of people have been making this text down here way too big, but in this case, it's too small and it's too much of an afterthought. It almost seems like a disclaimer or something like that. Otherwise, everything else was good, though, so thanks for the submission. Let's see what this is. All right, so water's better with flow. Yeah, this one's not too bad. I would have preferred, to make this maybe down here, but that's just a minor gripe. This right here, this water, while it's a cool effect, I think almost it's too much of an effect and almost takes away a little bit too much from the call to action, because it is the same color in a sense, especially the darker areas. So this kind of gets lost when you start to scroll down, but that's not a big issue though. I do like everything else. Ideally, I would get rid of the very light borders. These can stand well on their own without them. But other than that, this is one of the better entries, so thanks for submitting that. All right, so looking at this, let's see here. All right, so let's see. I would definitely get rid of this underline here. it's unnecessary, and it kind of throws off the flow of the design, and it clutters it unnecessarily. We don't need it. I would definitely make this a lot bigger as it's a headline. And again, this kind of gets lost down here because it's kind of too far away from the receiver 15% off coupon. So again, like I said before, on other entries, try to get these two closer together. I'd probably get rid of this over here. It's kind of distracting, especially when you already have something at the bottom. All right, so thanks for the submission though. All right, so looking at this one. All right, so it gets lost too much, the call to action down here. And there's also an issue just with the layout. You know, we have this border here, this white border. Definitely get rid of that. And this is centered in it, yet this text is left aligned, and then this is started over here, and it's left aligned. And so there's definitely a big issue in terms of how you're choosing to align your elements, and it throws off the flow of the layout, essentially. So this down here, you could barely see enter your email. I would get rid of all the crazy gradients too. That's something you really don't see anymore. That's kind of like an more old school approach towards design. So in terms, not everything has to be flat, but I think this is just way too many gradients for what it's worth. But thanks for the submission. All right, so looking at this, huge issue with the colors. It's hard to read because they clash too much because there's not enough contrast. So also the font size that you're using, it's too hard to read. Everything's kind of just smashed together. There's not a lot of white space in between these elements. And to enter your email, let me see here. There's no button either. So yeah, a lot of issues here, unfortunately. So I would definitely take a look at the ones that I've mentioned are better and see how you can improve in that manner. Or hit me up for one-on-one training. That would be great too. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so, all right, flow. Water is better with flow. This is, yeah. Issue here is it's just tacked on at the bottom. And so most people really wouldn't see it, or very few people would bother to enter their email address. You definitely want this to be up top in your flow. In their flow. Oh man, I am tired as hell. I spent all day at a water park. But anyhow, yeah, it's just this water is better with flow. The headline, you definitely need to make that larger. Make that something that's, really the focal point, because this is almost the same font size as this right here. And this sticks out even more just because there's more contrast. So I would definitely work on trying to prioritize, what are the most important elements. And so you would definitely shrink this down, probably move it down, bring this up, make this color stand out more so it's not the same as this, basically. And it would be much better just with those changes. All right, so looking at this, let's see here, just kind of reading. All right. A couple things that are throwing off the design for me is just with it encased in this design right here, there's not a lot of white space in the elements, like the text and such. One thing that throws things off for me is like, okay, so you have flow, the beginning of the F here, but then this extends off beyond that. And then this is all centered right here. And there's just not a strong presence of a layout here. You could definitely see there's two columns. You have this column here, and then you have the glass. But generally, when you have two columns like this, you probably should not center everything in this column because it throws off the flow of the design, basically. The send me my coupon, that doesn't stick out enough, unfortunately. I would use just a completely contrasting color, but something that complements well. Again, the send me my coupon, the white space or the padding should be equal, at least equal on all these sides right here. So I push this out an equal distance from here just because it looks squished in a sense. All right. Other than that, contrast and all of that is done well. So thanks for that. All right. So there's some issues in terms of this one. I like the simplicity, but there are some issues here. Right here, water is better with flow. You know, this is bold and a certain size. This is not bold, and then this text right here is large. So it kind of almost looks like, you know, you're not sure where to focus, unfortunately. So you want to definitely make water is better with flow the biggest element, and then receive a 15% off coupon by entering your email should all be styled the same because it's just part of the same sentence. Otherwise, you make it too complex. To enter your email, kind of push down way too far. You know, you have a certain padding up here, right, like right here, but then you've doubled it or almost tripled it right here, and so it's kind of throwing off the padding, and so it's creating for an inconsistency with how it's presented. Other than that, I do like the simplicity of this, so thanks for that. Crop the version. All right, so the issue with this one here is, you know, when somebody opens this up on their browser and they see water's better with flow, receive 15% off coupon, it may be the only thing they see currently on their browser, then they have to scroll down. A lot of people might just exit and say, what the hell, you know? I like the simplicity of it for sure, but then we have this portion right here, and then this ultimately gets hidden. So this is something that, you know, it would be a big no, because, you know, it's all the same color. There's no distinction between the button and the input. It's the same color as the background, so it's really lost here. All right, so I would work on fixing that. Thanks for the submission. Okay, let's see here. All right, so there's no email entry, unfortunately, but I do like the color of this button. It should definitely be larger, though. Should be almost the size or the width of this text right here. The 15% off coupon doesn't contrast enough with this water, so it's kind of a little bit hard to read. Other than that, I do like it. I like the layout and, you know, the font size for this, and that's all good. Thanks for submitting. All right. This is the exact same one, I think, that I already reviewed. Yep. All right, so let's see here. Oh, okay. All right, so coming down here, okay, so definitely an issue with, you know, the put your email here. Can't really see it. You can see it, but it's kind of hard to read. It'll get lost. The send me my coupon, that doesn't stand out enough on its own. And, you know, I appreciate the attempts of, you know, doing something, you know, kind of unique here and artistic, but generally I would kind of stay away from it. Especially, you know, you have everything centered, but then we have this pushed off to the right, and that throws off, you know, the alignment consistency in the design. So I definitely make this stand out with its own background. And then, you know, this right here, this is supposed to be kind of like an afterthought. You know, this should be, you know, water's better flow, you know, and you got that right in terms of size, but it just needs moved up here. Ideally, this would be brought down beneath this portion right here. All right, thanks for that entry. All right, so this is I don't even know how to pronounce the name, but he's always given some pretty good submissions. Let me go ahead and copy image there, paste that in. Okay. So this is at 100%. The one issue I would say, everything's too small. Just that, you know, at least how I'm viewing it. If everything was just scaled up by like 35 or 40 or 50%, I'd be able to read it a little bit better. It's a little hard to read this stuff. This isn't bad. And people, the probably about 5 to 10 people have submitted call to action buttons with uneven padding or white space right here. This is how you do it correctly. So let's see here. Yeah, just see how, like even on the iPad preview, how small this is in relation to the size that you do have available. You could extend this out for sure over here and still have good white space. That's the only, I would say that would be the only improvement from my end that I can see, you know, that would be worth integrating in this design. Otherwise, it is good. All right. All right, look at this one. Yeah, the call to action doesn't stand out enough, doesn't contrast with this water right here. So I'm not a big fan of the strokes either, in this context at least. It's probably fine to stroke, the input, but not the call to action button copy. I would just make it a color that really contrasts well, and then you wouldn't even have to put a stroke. Other than that, though, I do like it. You have your priority straight, and you had that working well for you. So thanks for that. All right, so big issue here is, if you were to load this up in your browser again, you're gonna have to scroll down quite a bit just to get to this section. And statistically, that's gonna significantly cut down on the amount of emails you're going to get, which is the whole point. You did make it a good contrasting color, so that's good on that front. This is too big in relation to this. If anything, you really want the button to be bigger. Ideally, they're probably going to be around the same size, though. So I would definitely scale this down and then put placeholder text here, enter your email, just so people understand, even though you're specifying it right here, because a lot of people aren't intelligent, unfortunately. But yeah, way too much white space, vertical white space between these elements, though, and that will cause for a lot of unnecessary scroll. So that's what I fixed there. Thanks for that. I would definitely widen this email right here. It's a little bit too small, especially given the size of the text currently in there. So a lot of people, they would enter their email and then part of their email would get lost because it would start scrolling over. So definitely increase that size. I like the button, the fact that it's its unique color, in comparison to the blue up here. Again, I would try to definitely work this right here up into here, just because it's this is the focal point. This is what they want, is their email addresses for advertising. When you put it at the bottom, you're going to lose some people, unfortunately. Other than that, just changing a couple things, those couple things would definitely make it a lot more solid. Everything else is going good here for you. Thanks for that. All right, so alignment issues here. You have everything kind of centered, and these two things are a certain width and such, but then just slapped over here to the left with nothing over here, that throws off the flow of the design. So definitely want to remedy that issue. Sorry, my mouse scroll wheel is going haywire. And then this is kind of just an afterthought, almost like a disclaimer. So I would try to make that a little bit more priority. And yeah, I think if you did those couple things, it would definitely be better. All right, let's go to page 3. My throat is like killing me at this point. All right, so the email address right here is getting lost. It's there's not enough contrast for this right here, this stroke. So, and plus where it says email address, even though you can read it, some people with bad vision might have a hard time seeing it. And I would definitely increase the size to at least match the Send Me My Coupon. So you got that button correct, but just this part is the weak link, I would say. And, just making a couple adjustments would definitely improve it. Yeah, you see there's a lot of text right here. Definitely move this text below, as I've been saying with a lot of other entries, and it would definitely improve. So thanks for that. There's too much contrast with this background. It sticks out way too much. I would make it more like a watermark, because it's making it hard to read this text. Very few people would sit there and read this, just because it would be kind of difficult to follow. So that's the big issue with this design. If you really just desaturated this background here, it'd be a lot better. Not desaturated, but really take away from the contrast of it. And then these should be probably equal size and width for sure, just because it's kind of getting thrown off in terms of the layout of it. All right, and water's better with flow, receive okay. Let's see. This right here, like I said, another entry. Try to make sure your button, your call to action is the background of the color of it is a different color than this portion, than the input, just so it stands out as something that you click. Also, this text right here, scale that down definitely. And also this background, kind of contrast, a little bit too much contrast in it. So I would just kind of put it inside of like a container, a dark blue container, and then take this layer, take the opacity down by like 50%. That way, because it's still kind of hard. You get into lighter areas in the background here against this white. Makes it just a tad bit difficult to read, especially when you have this white and then it gets real dark right here. So it's adding clutter with the text. And I would say I'd definitely scale this down because it's an afterthought so that there's more emphasis placed on this form right here. So thanks for that. All right, so this one, let's see here. Let me copy image. So the type your email address, your email here, it's a little bit too hard to read. So I like the white space and the padding that you have going, but it probably needs to be bigger, definitely bigger, and maybe stick out a little bit darker gray. Send me my coupon, a little bit hard to see just because, as with a lot of other entries, we have the blue water and then this blue. Even though there's, this is a lot more saturated, it's still a little bit more difficult to see just in this aspect. So I would make that stand out just a little bit more. Other than that, that's good of what you have going here. And then finally, last entry. Water is better with flow. Receive 15% off coupon in your email. Again, this issue here, same issue as above. This one, the send me my coupon call to action does not stand out enough in relation to the background. So it definitely make this something maybe like a green or something that really stands out so people understand. Other than that, I'll probably get rid of the drop shadow here. Kind of definitely unnecessary. Make this stand out. Probably make this bold because that's one of the elements that we really wanted to stress in the headline, and then it'd be a lot more solid. All right, so thanks for these submissions, everyone. Wow, 51 minutes. That was the longest review ever. Okay, thanks for all the submissions, though. Definitely, I would say about 85-90% of you, if I just spent 1 hour with you guys, one-on-one training, would be a huge improvement, I think. Cover a lot of things. So please check this out. The video courses as well. The responsive web design course and how I did layout is definitely pertinent and relevant to the challenge that we just did. Look forward tomorrow or today, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be releasing this video on Monday or on this day, so we'll see. But yeah, we'll look out very shortly for definitely on Tuesday, the next challenge video. All right, so subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.